According to Arrowhead and most Helldivers 2 players, apparently no one likes fighting the bots. People much prefer bug stomping and slaughtering Terminids because, well, for the most part, they don't shoot back. But today, I'm here to tell you that the reason why you don't like engaging with these bots is because you are fighting them totally wrong. So here are a handful of tips that I use to complete missions on level 7, 8, and level 9. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, this first tip is going to seem extremely obvious. It's bring the correct equipment and engage the bots accordingly. Now, I'm not that type of Helldiver that's going to say you have to bring in this equipment. However, in my experience fighting these bots, bringing the wrong equipment is not only a death sentence, it's just not fun. So for me, my primary I bring when I fight the bots is the Diligent Sniper. I also rock light armor with the Scout perk equipped. That way I can move around the map seemingly undetected. This also lets me ping the enemies further at range, but more importantly, the enemies have a much harder time detecting me as I move around, which is extremely important when you fight these stupid bots. And for the most part, when I engage with these bots, I'm doing it from medium to long distance, and I can do that in pretty much 1 to 2 tap a lot of these scouting parties. And if I do find myself in close range combat, this is the important time to talk about first person aiming versus over the shoulder third person aiming. When you're aiming at distance, always aim down sights and snipe out what you need to. But don't sleep on this diligence. If you crouch, you could third person aim and beam these things and usually take a lot of things down in one shot. I'm also bringing impact grenades, so anything that clusters up dies almost instantly, including most Devastators. The second tip is this: the bots cheat, so you need to cheat. Bring the autogun. What I mean by the bots cheat, it's obvious if you lay down, these things will find you immediately. They will also, for some reason, shoot through solid surfaces and sometimes even walk through solid surfaces. So that's why I bring the autocannon. It's the great equalizer. The autocannon can pretty much take down everything. Main mission objectives: hulks, tanks, laser guns, everything else in between. Autocannon, autocannon, autocannon. And unless you're looking to completely snipe a Devastator in the face and one-shot them, fire this thing while crouched in third person. This thing is so good because not only does it do a high amount of damage to things and blow pieces of them off, but it also stun locks most enemies. And trust me, those laser turrets and tanks are absolutely nothing. You can snipe laser turrets in 3 to 4 shots from across the map, and you can flank tanks and shoot them 3 times in their weak spot and they blow up right away. All of this without having to call in any other stratagem. And if you're running this thing correctly, only shoot half of it, then reload, and it's a very quick reload. So if an enemy also calls in a bot drop, you can use the autocannon. No, not to shoot down the ship, but shoot the enemies that it's about to drop. If it's just basic scouts, they'll all die by the time they hit the ground. And if it's berserkers, you can shoot them and freeze them all together when they hit the ground. And that's what I mean when I say to cheat with the autogun. The autogun is also fantastic at completing objectives. Bot fabricators, you can ricochet a shot right in its vents and blow it up. And for the most part, if the mission objective requires you to detonate a hell bomb, well then you guess it. You could just snipe that objective from afar with the autocannon and complete it and be on your way even before the bots know what happened. And that is the best part, because tip number 3 is the bots have obvious weaknesses that can be easily exploited, especially with this autocannon. If you haven't noticed, most of the bots have a nice glowing red or orange spot. An orange spot means it's a vent which is super susceptible, and a red spot is another critical zone. So if you see a Hulk Berserker, for the most part, if you see a vent, it can be taken down in 3 shots with the autocannon. And if you see a Hulk, you can 2-shot them right in the red eye and blow them up with ease. And if you're not that accurate and you find yourself being chased down by Hulk Scorchers, you can use the autocannon to shoot off the Hulk Scorcher's arms, render them almost useless. And plus, this is the best tool for obliterating all those damn rocket devastators and shield devastators. You will not be disappointed. Bring the autogun every single time you do a bot mission. My next tip is actually the gas strike. Now, do not sleep on this gas strike for 2 reasons. First being is that the gas has a very quick call down time. And if you think it doesn't do a lot of damage, hear me out. It doesn't do a lot of quick damage. But if you throw this directly in a base or in a choke point, this will destroy things and weaken other stuff. Usually I find by the time I've called in the gas strike and then had to finish off the engagement from a distance, by the time that fight is nearing completion, my gas strike is ready to go. Now, the second thing is something I haven't confirmed yet and I can't find information anywhere else, so this comes from my own experience. Potentially, it seems that the gas strike is interrupting the enemy's ability to call in bot drops, and if you're fighting Terminants, from calling in bug breachers, but I digress. I did notice that the enemy will still call in a bot drop before the gas hits, but if the gas does hit and is out and they're stuck inside of it, most of the time I never see them call in a bot drop. So I think it might have a secret mechanic to it, but I have not confirmed that. Another great thing is because you call in a gas strike from such a far distance and it comes down very quickly, it can almost take out an entire zone stealthily. And that's extremely important. You have either yourself or someone else throw in the gas strike, and then the other person can use the autocannon to blow up the objectives. It's a great combination. My next tip to you is use stealth and stealth armor to get out of situations or to not engage entirely. And what I mean by stealth is you can actually crouch or go prone and crawl past or squat past a lot of these zones, and the enemies actually have a hard time detecting you. And moreover, even if they have detected you, you can run a little bit away, break line of sight, and the passive ability on this armor helps you get away from enemy detection. There's been times where I've turned the corner and a rocket devastator has looked directly at me, and I was able to just run away even before the thing engaged with me. And I tell you this because you can still use your heavy armor, but how many times have you been using that heavy armor and still died in one rocket shot? So all you're doing is giving those enemies the advantage if you're not running light armor with a stealth bonus on them. The next tip is to tell you that the bot drops are not the end of the world. For the most part, you do want to engage the bots in more of long-range combat and bring weapons and stratagems that will enable you to do that. But if they do call in a bot drop, you can disengage and lure them to another spot. Just make sure that the spot you're going to run to does not already have another enemy patrol or you're running towards an enemy base, which means it's up to you to control the map and don't let the map control you. Just because there's a primary objective doesn't mean you have to immediately go there. You might want to take out a couple of those small fabricator bases so you have places to fall back to. And like I was mentioning about the gas strikes, you can lure the enemies into a choke point, literally and figuratively, and take them down with relative ease. The next tip is that too much aggro is exactly what these bots want. If you did not know, the bots have something called a suppressive protocol that makes them less accurate when they are being shot at, but that also means that they can basically hear the wind blowing from miles and miles away. Have you ever just been hiding there or AFK for a second only to come back and see that you are swarmed by bots? That's because not only do they cheat and somehow know exactly where you are at all times, but if you make noise, the enemy will investigate that exact zone. And knowing that, you can use it to your advantage. And that's why fighting at range is so important. If you see a bot fabricator base, you really don't want to get that close to it to throw a grenade in. Remember, there's many ways to take out a bot fabricator base, with the best one of course being an autocannon ricochet shot, but if you don't have the angle advantage, you could throw in an eagle or a different type of call down to blow that thing up from a distance. And yes, this will probably trigger a bot drop, but you don't have to stick around and fight those bots. Blow up the objective, let them call the bot drops down, and once they realize they have nothing to fight once they drop down, they will move on and investigate another area. Then you can come back a little bit later and get those samples afterwards. The next tip is, just like the bugs, a lot of these bots can actually just be dismantled. You can blow off Hulk Scorcher's arms, and you can do the same thing with the rocket devastators and shield devastators. And like I said earlier, if you're not entirely accurate, you can still mitigate a lot of these threats by just blowing up the parts of the enemy that are going to hurt you the most. Moving on is a tip about the orbital laser. The orbital laser should only be used to help you extract or to take out a major primary objective. Try not to use it just on a big horde because there's a lot of guys there. You're pretty much wasting it. These orbital lasers are so good at taking out the dropship objectives, and also if there's tons of fabricators in a single zone. And you also know how crazy it can get when you extract. So if you're playing solo, you absolutely need to have that, otherwise you're probably not extracting. And if you're playing with a team of 4, even if you get a 4-minute call in extraction, if you're smart with those lasers and of course those gas, the enemies won't even come close and you'll be able to extract with ease. Moving on to the next tip. Don't waste too many reinforcements on one fight. Just because you died and all your samples and gear are right there, doesn't mean you have to bot drop directly on a Hulk and probably not kill it and die immediately. Too many times have I seen teams with 20 reinforcements drop down to 9 in a matter of moments just because they kept calling their buddies in next to their equipment. Disengage, then reinforce. Let the enemies spread out and then you can go back and get some of your stuff. Remember, the automatons want you to keep fighting them because they can pretty much call in an unlimited amount of them. And once there's 10 dropships, 5 Hulks, a tank, a laser turret, berserkers, and devastators, there's nothing you can do. The final tip for fighting these bots is pretty simple, but I need to tell you this. And that is coordinate call-ins so that someone has at least something to deal with mobs at all times. Now, I know this can be more of a challenge when you're playing with randoms, but for the most part, there's no reason to have 2 orbital lasers out at the same time. Literally a complete waste. If someone is throwing an orbital air burst out, there's no reason that you should follow it up with a gas strike. Of course, there's nothing you can do when you're scrambled or an ion storm comes, but it's up to you guys to not be entirely brain dead and throw all your stratagems out at once and then complain that it's too hard because you have nothing to fight them with. And plus, you shouldn't have anything to worry about because you have that auto cannon also. And just remember to do your part. Call out when you are about to throw in a stratagem, not as you're throwing a stratagem. And there you have it, my friends. Those are the tips I've put together when I fight the bots. I do a lot of these things solo from level 7 all the way up to level 9. And if I'm playing with friends or randoms, I'm still able to complete all these objectives and get all the super samples. If you listen to some, if not all of these tips, then you too will have no trouble on the bot front. So other Helldivers, if you can, please don't only go after the bugs. Join us over here on the automaton front, because Malevolent Creek is only the tip of the hell world over here. Thank you for tuning into this video. If you liked it, go ahead and leave it a like and leave me your thoughts and comments down below. Do you have anything else that you use to fight the automatons that make it more manageable that you would share to your fellow Helldivers so we can have more of them on the home front? But other than that, thank you so much for stopping by and watching this video. Subscribe if you're new, it's free to do so. But other than that, I'm Drifter from Downloadable Content, and I will see you next time.